Good afternoon. It's a pretty windy day here in Manawatu Wanganui region in New Zealand, as you can see by my hair blowing everywhere. Hi, I'm Ellie from Spoken Thimble Homestead. I was planning to do a bit of a tour video today, but I don't think I will. I think I will probably head into the potting shed. So these are our poplar. I've got a mic on with a sleeping kitty, dead cat, on it to hopefully reduce the noise, and I've also got the noise reduction on, so we'll see how it goes. If it's too noisy, I'll just do a voiceover. So I will take a photo of these when they're still. These poplar we planted in August 2023. It was one of the first things we did here. The variety of poplar I first chose was called Kawa. However, when I spoke to the place where we bought them from, which I will put up on here, he recommended that we get this variety, which is called Veronese. And I'm very glad I listened to him. The reason he recommended the Veronese variety is because he said that they stand up to the wind a lot better than the Kawa. Some of the gusts we've had today have been 60 kilometres an hour already. The winds are supposed to get up even higher tomorrow, which is Sunday to Monday. Sometimes we've seen these trees almost bent double. It's quite amazing how strong they are. So something else I noticed getting really bashed about by the wind today is this little camellia. As you can see, it's double staked. I double stake everything around here because the winds can get really bad. The worst is the nor'wester or the west and the westerly, but sometimes from the east or the south it can come pretty strong too. So I've just made the choice to double stake everything. So as you can see, I do have a couple of ties on this one already, but I'm about to add a third one. There you go, look at that. There we go, another tie added. Bit more support for it. It's not being bashed quite into the stake now, so hopefully that will help to hold it as it grows. Right, so the wind has dropped a tiny bit, but it'll probably blow as soon as I start recording. I'm here in the top meadow by this little oak. There's a story behind this little oak tree, as there is behind many trees. When I was around 10 years old, my siblings and I all planted some acorns at our house where we were living at the time. Those acorns grew, well, one of them grew into a tree. We all claimed that it was our tree, of course, as children do. Since the beginning of 2021, when I dug up some tiny little saplings, they were probably about 10 centimetres high, I've carefully tended this little oak, watched it grow from a tiny little sapling to the size it is now. Even last year, it was probably only about half the size in this little cage. Well, there's no cage around it at the moment, but there will be very soon. So it was probably only up to around about here. And this year it has put on a lot of growth, which is fantastic to see. I'm still keeping a cage around it. As you can see, when the wind blows, it gets pretty bashed around. The cage is steel. It has windbreak around it as well, and it has a top to it. We have quite a lot of possums here, and I've tended this tree so carefully that I really don't want anything to happen to it. So I'm keeping it protected for some time yet. There's the oak all tucked up. Down in there, a little bit hard to see. A little bit of a clearer shot. The oak has some comfrey underneath the grass, so that will give it some food. And it now has a little bit more room. I banged in another stake, that one right there, so that I could just change the shape of the cage to let the oak spread a little bit. And there's the walnut all tucked up. We've put the piece of bamboo through just to keep the edge a little bit straighter. And the walnut also has a good layer of comfrey underneath the grass, and then a good thick layer of grass as well. So that will give it some food and help to keep the moisture in as well. The wind has dropped a little bit, so I thought I'd quickly come out, do a little bit of footage of this maple. This is a Norway maple. We put it in the ground in 2024. When we got it, it was quite angled. I'll find a photo and pop it up. That's the reason for it having several ties. When I cleared around it, I discovered that one of the ties had come off, the one at the top. So I've replaced that with one of the foam covered bits of wire. I'll keep the tension on this for another year at least and then see what happens. It's supposed to help it to straighten. I'll find the video where I got the information and I'll type the URL in below. I've brought you in closer to show you the base of this tree. When I plant each tree, it gets a couple of stakes. It also gets an eco wool mulch mat, which is a double layer of wool. And then I always put some cardboard or newspaper on top of the mulch mat. If I use newspaper, I use about 10 to 20 layers thick. And as you can see, I go in a bit closer, you can see that some of the newspaper is still there. So that's lasted at least a year. I know I planted this before October 2024. So I was pretty amazed to see that actually. I thought it would have all disappeared by now. The next step I'm going to do is to replace the mulch around here. I've got grass to the side here and another big pile here. I won't use all of it, but I will use quite a bit of it. That's now got a good layer of mulch around it. A little bit hard to see because it's the same colour as the grass that I've cut, but believe me, it's got a good thick layer which will help to retain moisture during the rest of the summer. This last spot I cleared today, earlier in the day, and there's the resultant pile of mulch soon to get moved. So this stake is where I'm going to plant the honey locust. So I'm going to put the mulch all around there. It'll help to keep the soil moist even though there's nothing there yet. And then in the winter I will pop the honey locust in there. Right, so that's the honey locust spot mulched. When I'm looking at where I'm going to plant a tree, there's a number of things to consider, as lots of you will know. How far from the other trees, how far from power lines, up there. So that's why I've chosen this spot, because it's enough of a distance from the poplars. It's far enough away from the walnut, and it's probably a little bit hard to see. It's in the distance there. It's also far enough away from the oak. And last but not least, the oak. I've just put all the grass around it that I cut away from it, and that will help to keep the ground there cool as well.